Hey everyone. Um, Today I am talking about ego with y'all. Okay, so um, I'm gonna tell you how I see ego, and I'm going to kind of talk about. I believe we have many different. Sorry, calm down. I believe we have many different selves, and so at first, let me talk about. Let me get a drink. Sorry. Okay, so the definition of ego in a dictionary is the I or self of any person. I'm not going to read the whole thing, that's just the short thing. Now, for me, the ego is basically that. I'm going to describe it. So, the ego to me is the part of yourself that always focuses on the I, the me, the I. This is good and this can be bad, and, depending on the person. So, um, basically, sometimes people's egos are fed into things. Usually people that are good looking, and they know they're good looking when other people tell them they are, or if they can just look and tell that they're good looking. Not all, but some of them, and a lot of them, will have it in their minds that, oh, I'm good looking, I'm too good for everyone else, blah, 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 blah. So therefore that person will have a big ego. However, that person probably has insecurities, not about their looks, but about other things. I usually find people with big egos to be very insecure people, because, their looks or their ego is what helps them get through life. And they could be going through so much. They could be having drug problems. They could be um, going through family problems, financial problems, whatever. So that being said, it's not just good-looking people. There are people with big egos who are maybe what some would call unattractive or whatever. But I'm not saying that all good-looking people are like that. I'm not saying that all unattractive people are looking like that or acting like that. I'm saying, for me and in society, usually people who are good-looking kind of flaunt it in a way. So that's one way how you're a person with a big ego. Another person with a big ego is if they know they have power or position in something, such as a boss or a manager or a CEO of a company. Sometimes, not all, but sometimes you will see them being very stuck up because their ego is being fed that they know that have power. They know that they have control over people. So that's another way of feeding your ego. So when you feed your ego, I see it like this. Your ego is like a balloon. You kind of feed it. And as you feed it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I find this to be very bad for me because I find that to not be good. Because, first of all, you will always be thinking about yourself in a way, and you may be selfish, and other people will not want to be around you. Now, you have people who are insecure, who have a low ego, to me, which I would call it, um, who don't think highly of themselves, who put themselves down. They're what you would call have a low ego. Okay, so they they may be, not all people. They may be poor, or they may not be well off. They may be what society or what they think is unattractive. So I go like this for unattractive because to me there is beauty in all and everything, and there are really attractive people who, in my opinion, where someone else might not find that. Okay? So there is beauty in all shapes and sizes and colors and the way someone looks. So there isn't really such thing as being ugly, or being attractive, is because everyone finds attractiveness and ugliness in different ways. Like I may see a person down the street and I may be with my mom and she may say, "Oh, he's attractive," and I may be like, "I don't think so," but it's your opinion, so therefore that person is attractive. So to me, being attractive and stuff like that is all about opinion of the individual person. So that's why I go like this, for that. People with low egos. Well, that's what I call low egos. They could be insecure. And they may not be able to nurture their ego a lot. They may not be able to feed it. Now, like I said, to me, the ego is the part of you that's all about I. And I believe that we have many different selves. We have the higher self, we have the ego self, the subconscious self, and the conscious self. And the conscious self is the self that is always talking in your mind, right? The subconscious self never gets to talk because the conscious self is always chatting, and the subconscious is full of symbology, and that's where spirit puts its messages in. It's through there. And when our conscious mind is silent, our subconscious can speak. Your ego self is about you and me. It is the self that is about you as a being. Okay, and then you have the shadow self as well, and then you have the higher self. So, I believe the ego is man-made, and it is a man-made self. If we go back to when we were born, we are just born. We don't know our names yet. We don't know how to speak English. We don't know if I'm right or wrong. We don't know about us. We only develop the way we dress, the way we think of ourselves, the way we label ourselves through learning how society works. For instance, when you're born, you're given a name. So therefore, since you're given a name, you already have a label on yourself, which feeds into the ego. That's just my take on it. Then, when you get older, you may be introduced to different interests, and that could feed your ego and then shape the way you dress and shape this. So that's how you kind of make it in the physical world on Earth, is kind of you feed your ego. Now, because you're feeding yourself. Anything to do with yourself is feeding your ego. That's just my take on it, and that's how I take it. Now, how would I do that within my spiritual practices? To me, one of my goals in my spiritual practice is to reach, obviously, enlightenment and what some people, what Hinduism calls moksha, which is what they call union with Brahman, or which I call union with the Creator. That's one of my goals, which I'll probably get into another video. To reach enlightenment, see everything's one, be one with the Creator and all of life. But another goal of mine is to tame the ego, which again, to me, is the self that is all about me, I. It can be linked to your identity in a way. That's how I see it. Identity and ego to me are kind of intertwined. So that's that. But so that's how I take it. Well, that just doesn't mean it's right or wrong. That's just how I take it. But basically, I try not to feed into my ego too much, and I try not to not feed into the ego. If that makes sense, because I don't want to be too insecure, and I don't want to be an ass or whatever. So I want to be right in the middle, where I kind of like myself and care for myself. And so I don't want to be too selfish, and I don't want to be too not about me. I want to be in the middle, because if you're on the other side of being low self-esteem, well, how can you manifest anything or do anything and succeed in anything if you're in that low state of mind? Whereas if you're taking too high of yourself, you may have doubts and fears, because you're talking big, and talking big helps you get over the fact that you could be doubting it. And I find people, when they talk big about anything in their spirituality or whatever, they are talking a lot of lies, in my opinion, because in somewhere underneath them there is some form of doubt, but they are saying it to self-assure themselves that they can do it where they might be doubting. So having a big ego, I don't think is good. Having too much, like a little, not much of an ego, is not good. So I like to have in the middle, where you kind of balance. That's just my take on it. So I hope you guys have a great week, and I don't know if I'll be on the live call this week, depending when I'm doing. Is it Sunday or Saturday? One of the two. I think it was Sunday for this week. However, you'll probably get a message in the other videos. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That is my take on ego. So kind of like a recap. To me, the ego is a part of I. Whenever you're saying I love this or I'm amazing, that is your ego self speaking. And there are a lot of people who go I every 2 sentences, and you'll say something to them, and they'll go I back, and it's like big ego. Okay, or the people who won't want to talk about themselves. That's to me a small ego. So that's just how I take it. I don't know, just how I take it. So I want to let you all know that you're hot and you're all special in your own little ways. And so blessings and good evening or good morning or wherever and whenever you're watching this. So I'm gonna stop talking now. Bye bye. Blessings.